We started off the project by heading to our local home center to grab all of our supplies. Now, since we only have a small compact car, we actually had to cut all of our supplies down in the parking lot. A lot of home centers will actually do this for you, but our specific location said they won't make any rip cuts on giant sheets of plywood. We used our cordless circular saw as well as the Craig rip cut jig to help easily trim down these sheets of plywood so we could fit it inside the car. When you're trimming these pieces in the parking lot, make sure you have something underneath the wood to prevent the blade hitting the ground. A lot of people will use something like foam insulation, but we just have some simple sawhorses and a couple 2x4s. Once we got these pieces home, we ripped them to final width on the table saw. Now, ripping a long sheet can be kind of hard, so I highly recommend having a partner to help you guide that piece through. After ripping the pieces to final width on the table saw, we measured out the length of the cabinet and then used a circular saw paired with a speed square to cut the pieces to final length. We then proceeded to cut down the side pieces for the cabinet as well as the center dividers. We picked up this rocker doweling jig to not only perfectly align the boards but also to support the glue joint. The rocker doweling jig is incredibly easy to use. Simply line up your boards, strike a line, and align the doweling jig over that line and drill holes. Make sure that the collar on the drill bit is actually tightened down and you don't have your finger below where the drill bit would be, just in case it slips through, goes into your finger, and you have to go to the emergency room. Just saying. After cutting all the holes for the dowels, we were ready to dry assemble the case to get final dimensions for some other pieces. After dry assembly of the case, we cut the center support down to its final length. We used a circular saw and speed square, but as you can see, we were slightly long, so we had to go back and trim just a hair off in order for the center support shelf to fit in. We then cut and marked holes for the dowels for the upright dividers. Our next step was to rip some of the long, scrap pieces of plywood down to make our support frame, as well as the support pieces for the shelves themselves. We used our crosscut sled to trim the base pieces down to final size. The easiest way to make sure you have repeated cuts of the exact same length is to use a stop block. You can see here that we've simply attached a scrap piece of 2x4 to our sled. Doing this ensures that all your pieces are the exact same length. Simply butt up your piece to the stop block and cross-cut your piece as you normally would. To assemble the base of the cabinet, we grabbed two of the pieces that we cut in the previous step and joined them with the two longer pieces to make up the base. We decided to use brad nails so that no pocket holes were shown. We then grabbed our Craig pocket hole jig and adjusted the collar to accommodate 3/4 inch material. Not only do pocket holes make joining two boards incredibly easy, they also increase the strength compared to a standard glue and butt joint. Once all the pocket holes were drilled, we simply screwed and glued them to the main base.
After we dry assembled the console, we took rough measurements to cut out our back panel in order to rip it down on the table saw. We then cross-cut it the final width using the circular saw and straight edge. One technique we use to prevent tear out on plywood is wrapping the wood in masking tape before we cut.
Now that we've got all of our pieces cut, we're just going to go ahead and sand it all before we assemble.
To stay up to date on all of our projects, follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Spenceley Design Co. We'd love to get your feedback, and you can also check out what we've been up to each week. We drilled the remaining pocket holes into the base so we could attach it to the bottom of the console and then measured and marked where to attach the two pieces together. We then applied glue to the bottom of the base and clamped it in place to hold steady while we drilled in the pocket screws. If glue squeezes out, simply grab a wet paper towel and wipe off any excess glue before it dries. After attaching the base to the bottom of the console, we were ready to put everything together. We started by squeezing glue into the dowel hole and then running a bead of glue along the edge of the wood. Using a silicone brush helps spread the glue out and ensure a strong bond between pieces. We used a square to make sure the pieces were glued at a 90-degree angle and then clamped the pieces together while the glue dried. We repeated the same step for the other side, and then we were ready to put in the shelf support. This piece was previously cut oversized, and after we carefully cut it down to the proper length, We drilled pocket holes to attach it to the center shelf. We repeated the exact same process for the remaining support pieces. We were then ready to assemble the console. The key to a globe of this size is to move fast and to try to break it into as many small steps as you can. Since we don't have super large clamps, a ratcheting band clamp was a huge help to ensure we could properly clamp all the pieces together.
If you're interested in building this project for yourself, check out the link in the description below or visit SpenceleyDesignCo.com. There you can find plans for projects we have built as well as some products we have available to purchase. If you'd like a custom built piece, feel free to message us through social media or our website. We then attach the back panel to the console using glue and brad nails. If you do not use brad nails, you need to clamp the back piece until the glue dries. While you could cut the panel down using a saw, we chose to cut this panel oversized so that we could use a flush trim bit on the cordless router to make it a perfect fit. A flush trim bit has a bearing that rides along the wood, which only removes the overhang. After cleaning up the overhang on the back panel, we did some final light sanding and then applied a couple coats of finish. Our old TV stand had done its time. Not only do our audio components not fit in it, but the paper veneer is slowly peeling off and the legs are starting to get chewed up. And after all our work, we were done. This project turned out amazing and we could not be happier with it. We still haven't figured exactly how we want to arrange everything on this, but once we figure it out, we're going to drill some small holes so that we can feed all the wires through in the back.